The radio hummed, a low, steady sound in the quiet homes of Mexico City. Outside, the night was thick with heat and car fumes. Inside, families gathered around their radios searching for music, news, anything to break the quiet. Then, a voice came through the static, smooth, calm, captivating. It was Guillermo González Vallejo. He spoke of a tragedy no one else knew, a quiet apartment on Calle de la Luna, a life ended, a scene untouched by police. His words painted a chilling picture. Closed curtains, a single lamp, a book left open, a cup of tea half empty. Listeners shivered, disturbed by how well he knew the details. Vallejo told the story as if he were right there in the room. Vallejo signed off, his voice fading into the crackle of the radio waves. The police would eventually arrive and find everything just as he described. The city would never listen to the radio the same way again. The story had only just begun, and everyone was listening. Mexico City in the 1960s was a city full of shadows and secrets. By day it was lively with noise and movement, by night it let out its hidden fears. The radio ruled the darkness, its signals slipping through windows and doors, carrying stories and worries across the city. It was more than just fun, it was a presence, a trusted storyteller in every home. People believed what the radio told them. So when Vallejo spoke, the city listened. His chilling stories sank into the minds of millions. The radio's power was unmatched, it was immediate, personal, right there in your home. The city's buildings, tall walls, dark alleys made the fear worse. Every shadow seemed to hide someone watching, every sound, a danger. Vallejo's broadcast didn't create the fear, they gave it a voice. He tapped into the city's hidden worry, becoming the background music to its unease. As his voice poured from speakers, familiar streets became scary. The darkness felt deeper, the quiet heavier. Vallejo was more than just a radio host. He was the one who showed the city its worst nightmares. He held up a mirror to its darkest parts, and what it showed was terrifying. The city of whispers had found its main whisperer. Guillermo González Vallejo became the ghost in the machine, haunting the radio waves. The radio, once a comfort, now brought dread. Vallejo's voice was everywhere, impossible to escape. The city's trust in the radio became its biggest weakness. Fear spread, unseen but clearly felt. Vallejo's words stayed long after the broadcast ended. The city listened, and the city trembled. The whispers had become a roar. It began as a new radio show, Drama de la Vida Real. At first it seemed like any other crime program, but Vallejo's reports came before the police even arrived. He described crime scenes with chilling accuracy, as if he predicted them. The public was fascinated, and terrified. Families gathered nightly, drawn to the man who seemed to know the city's secrets. Vallejo never revealed his sources. The police were confused and angry. The fear he created was clear. It was no longer about the crimes, it was about the voice that announced them, and the city's fear grew with every word. Guillermo González Vallejo lived in the shadows, his face unknown, even as his voice became famous for bad reasons. He haunted police stations and crime scenes, notebook in hand, taking in every tragedy. His broadcasts became stranger, less like reporting, more like storytelling. He tried to understand the minds of killers, imagined what victims thought in their last moments, and created poetic stories of death. It was unhealthy, intrusive, and completely captivating. Vallejo's hidden hints became more direct. The clock is ticking for the man in the gray hat. The next day a man in a gray hat was found dead. He seemed to be arranging the city's tragedies, not just reporting them. The public's fascination turned into extreme suspicion. Was he someone who could see the future, a brilliant detective, or the one planning the crimes? The city grew suspicious, isolated, and fearful. Vallejo's calm voice became linked to death. The broadcaster's shadow hung over Mexico City. No one felt safe. The line between someone who watches and someone who plans became blurry. Vallejo thrived in the uncertainty. The city's fear was what powered him, and his shadow only grew darker. Whispers in the police stations turned into open accusations. Vallejo was now the main suspect in many unsolved crimes. The evidence was not direct, but the pattern was too perfect. Detectives started a secret investigation, looking closely into Vallejo's life. They found no criminal record, but they did find an obsession with crime. Notebooks filled with chilling details, stories where facts and made-up events blended together. He was watched constantly, unmarked cars, plainclothes officers, eyes everywhere. Vallejo gave them nothing. He moved through the city like a ghost, his actions normal, his broadcasts chilling. Each new show was another taunt, another piece of forbidden knowledge. The detectives felt powerless, always a step behind. The public's fear was matched by the police's desperation. Vallejo held the city under his spell. Suspicion turned into certainty. They just needed proof. The hunt became more intense. The city waited for the truth to come out. The situation changed. The police were now hunting Vallejo. The hunter became the one being hunted. Detectives carefully looked at old cases, comparing Vallejo's broadcast to police reports. They searched for the impossible detail, something only the killer could know. The city became their game board, every crime scene a clue. Witnesses were questioned again, looking for Vallejo's presence. They tried to pull the ghost out of the machine. Vallejo, unaffected, continued his broadcasts, now filled with defiance. He spoke of how justice could fail, of secrets and of darkness. It was as if he dared the police to catch him. The tension stretched across the city. The police knew they had only one chance. If they failed, Vallejo would destroy them on air. The big discovery came from a sound, a faint, regular clatter behind Vallejo's voice. A detective, tired from hours of listening to tapes, recognized it, an old Olympia typewriter. Vallejo had claimed to be reporting live from a mobile unit, but the sound of the typewriter didn't belong there. The police checked the original report. A neighbor had heard typing from the victim's study the night of the murder. The realization was chilling. Vallejo had broadcast from inside the crime scene. The typewriter was not just studio noise, it was the sound of the murder scene itself. Vallejo had been there, reporting in real time, surrounded by clues. He was not just a witness or someone who helped, he was the one who did it. The unseen clue was hidden in plain hearing. It was the proof the police needed. Vallejo's arrogance had given him away. The image was terrifying, the radio host calmly telling the story from the scene of his own crime. The hunter had made a mistake. The trap was ready to be closed. The city's nightmare was about to end. The detectives got ready for the final move. Vallejo's reign of terror was almost over. The city prepared for the truth. The voice in the static would soon be quieted. The final act was set. The end was near. The city waited, holding its breath. The night of the arrest, the city held its breath. The police let Vallejo go to work as usual, waiting for him to enter his soundproof booth. They wanted to catch him in his element, while he was on air. His final broadcast began like any other. "Good evening, Mexico City." He told another dark story, unaware of the drama happening outside. Listeners leaned in, not knowing this was his last story. As Vallejo spoke, detectives moved silently through the station. They watched him through the glass, lively, powerful, in control. Then the signal was given. The engineer cut the broadcast. Across the city, Vallejo's voice was replaced by static. In the studio, the on-air light went dark. Vallejo stopped, confused, and looked up to see the detectives. There was no struggle, no words, just a silent understanding. The game was over. Vallejo looked at his microphone, then at the men who had come for him. His expression was impossible to read. The city's nightmare had ended. The voice in the static was finally silenced. Mexico City let out a breath. Vallejo's arrest sent shockwaves through Mexico City. The man who haunted the radio waves was now in jail. The trial was quiet. The evidence very clear. The tapes were played. The typewriter was identified. Vallejo's web of lies fell apart in court. But the biggest effect was on the radio. For nights, his frequency was silent, just static. The city, so used to his voice, was left with an unsettling quiet. The silence was louder than any broadcast. The absence of his voice created a new kind of fear. The ghost in the machine was gone, but his presence remained. The station filled the time slot with music, talk shows. Nothing felt the same. People tuned in, expecting to hear him, but only found silence. Vallejo had shown how a voice could control a city. The story became a legend, a warning tale about power in the dark. The city moved on, but the memory stayed. In the static between stations, some still heard his whisper, a chilling reminder of the man who knew too much.